Well, hey there, Streakers. Hopefully you're going to have a fantastic Friday. I've got my lovely co-host with me today on our short format, Streaking. We decided that we're just going to do a really quick one on a couple of different topics that I've covered a little bit in the past, but I wanted Jami's perspective on this, so she's decided to join me.
Hey, I'm here to give my perspective.
Yes, you are. Usually when Jami's with me or when we do this together, we have the longer format, which we're usually interviewing someone or going into or talking about something that is a little more in depth and we wanted to get more into. But this time, one of the subjects that I brought up in one of the past podcasts is thinking about the number of things that we do wrong in our lives. And here's where I'll be a little bit vulnerable here. This is where this came up. As I think back on my life, there are like poignant moments, specific moments where something happened that I did wrong. I made a mistake or I, embarrassed myself in some way or something like that. And when I think back on those moments, I get down on myself. I mean, it's almost like I relive that whole moment and I feel it again. And I was thinking to myself, for the number of wrong things that I do, and I can name and enumerate many of them, I also do right things. And so the question that I was thinking about is, how do I take and think about the right things and not just highlight the wrong things? And how do I, so now this is turning into a personal therapy session. So how do I...
I'm here for you, Jeff.
Thank you. How do I take and look at it and feel maybe the same kind of joy and satisfaction about doing something right as I feel about the embarrassment and shame from doing something wrong?
And that's a good question, because here's the frustrating part. I feel like shame and embarrassment can just be there. We don't have to try at all. But oftentimes feeling joy in our accomplishments is actually something that is more of a choice, oftentimes. I think as you were talking, I thought about an article that a friend sent me a couple months ago. And it was a BYU speech. So they have, BYU is a college in Utah, and they have people come and give speeches, like I'm sure they do at every college. And the title of this speech was The Story We Tell Ourselves, or The Stories We Tell Ourselves. And the whole premise of the speech was that in every situation that we go through in life, there's at least two ways of looking at it. And he used a story in the scriptures to tell, and what he did was he told that story from two opposite perspectives. And the interesting thing was
it was the same person,
story,
same experience.
Yes, but he told
in two different ways.
And the interesting thing was the way that he gave the speech. Everything that he said about that experience, when he said it, when he shared it in kind of what could be said the positive light and kind of what could be said the negative light, the things that he was sharing about that experience were all true. The positive things were true and the negative things were true.
Oh, wow.
And that's what really struck me is that both stories that he told were true, but they were coming at it from very different angles and left me feeling very differently about the experience as the way that the story was told. And that has stuck with me because I thought the thing that really stuck with me was the fact that both things were true. And what his takeaway of that speech was, what story are we telling ourselves about our own experiences? Which story are we dwelling on? Because the negative can be true and the positive can be true, and they can both be true at the same time. But the way that you tell the story to yourself has massive impact about how you feel about yourself and about how you feel about your experiences.
You can help me, Dr. Marvin.
It was, do you ever feel like someone sends you something and you're like, that person may have given that speech to hundreds of thousands of people, but it was for me.
Yes.
And I felt that way when I was listening to it and then rereading the article, because it was fascinating to me to recognize, I think I was kind of dumbfounded by the fact that the negative was true and the positive was true. So it wasn't a matter of that you're not being truthful with yourself by being the negative was true. And if I focus on the negative, that's true. All those things happened. But the positive was true too. And if I focus on the positive, all of those things happened. And so it was a recognition that how I choose to view the things that happen to me in my life have massive impact. And I think it struck a chord because I recognized how often and how easy it is for me to view the experiences that happen to me in a little bit of a negative light.
Yeah.
In a way that, wow, that was a really hard experience, or that was a really embarrassing experience, or, so I'll be a little vulnerable. I spoke about streaking to a group of lawyers, of female lawyers. It was lawyers from it was one firm, but several different locations, but it was all women and
highly accomplished.
And I was highly intimidated to go in and do this. And I prepared my guts out. I did everything I could. And I was really proud of how I prepared, because I did some things that I was scared to do, but I did them anyway because I was scared to give the speech and I wanted to be prepared. And I don't know exactly how I did on that speech because I haven't had the courage to go back and watch the video yet. But it's been interesting because I think back on that time, and after I did it, I expected to feel really good about it, but I didn't. I felt down on myself. And I think that's because I was focusing on all the little things that I felt insecure about. And I was completely ignoring the fact that I had conquered some really big things that I was scared about, scared to do and scared to take on. And so, this experience was before she sent me this article. So when I read that article, I thought back to that and I thought, all of the things I'm telling myself about that are true, but I'm focusing on the parts that were the insecure parts, and I'm dismissing the parts that I look at and think, look, you did a really good job. Mm-hmm. No, it wasn't perfect, but you did a good job, and you can focus on that. And that is true also.
So what I see, and thank you very much, that's a highly insightful story. What we look at, streakers, is for every wrong thing, there's a right thing. And it's the story that we tell ourselves and how we tell ourselves that story that's significant. And you really, I mean, what you just brought out is significant for me in the sense that I can look back on those situations and realize that, yes, I've made some mistakes. And from those mistakes, not only have I learned, but I also did some really right things, mm-hmm. and tell both sides of the story to myself and hopefully be able to feel some of that joy. And
it's okay to let the good things that you've done and the things that you've done right take center stage.
You got it. Well, streakers, that is quite the story that you tell yourself. So a streak that you might want to set from this is for whenever once a week, if you think of a wrong thing, or tell yourself the story that is the things that you're doing right, as well as the things that you're doing wrong, and realize that it's probably not as significantly bad as what you might feel. And so you can set a streak to have at least one positive, or what would it be to tell yourself at least one, when you think of one wrong, tell yourself at least 2 or 3 rights that you do as well.
Find something the right way to, what did you do right in that situation?
That one. That one came through with duct tape and baling wire.
It was great.
If you want more information about streaking, you can reach out to Jami or I, Jeffrey, Jeffery, at thestreakingapp.com, or
Jami at thestreakingapp.com.
You can also subscribe to this podcast, download the book, or buy it from Amazon or anywhere books are sold. And you can also download the Streaking app. You can learn all about streaking and what it can do for you through the Streaking app as well. Well, until we talk again,
keep streaking.